Mark, would you be kind enough to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joanne, may I have a roll call, please?
Douglas Beebe, Kathy Buckley.
Here.
Jeremy Connors, Michael Hagedorn.
Here.
Holden Lehman.
Here.
Ed Marin.
Here.
Mark Zand.
Here.
Colleen Stone.
May it be resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve this agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Motion. Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes. May it be resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment of a particular person. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Mike?
Second.
Mark? Any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes. Joanne, is there an issue that I did the resolution to return to regular session before the reporters were on?
No.
Okay.
What time? Who made the motion and what time?
That I have. We came back at 6:17. Motion by Holden, second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, resolution passes. It's resolved that the Board of Education appoint Crystal Palmer to the Board of Education effective 3/26/19 until 5/21/19. May I have a motion, please?
Motion. I'll second.
That'll be Mark. Second is Mike. Any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes, abstains, resolution passes. Congratulations. Oh, yeah.
All right.
We're going to sit next to Mr. Marin, but we're going to go down there. There goes three. It's warmer in this corner. So let's breathe right here. I, Crystal Palmer, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member from March 26, 2019 to May 21st, 2019, according to the best of my ability. And I'll leave this one right there. Thank you. Right there. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Hello.
We're all set? Yes. It's resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following personnel resolution on this consent agenda appointments be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please? Did I skip
number 4 on the
You skipped number 4.
public comment.
Oh, wait a minute, I did skip one. I apologize. It's resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Mark? Any questions or discussion? Am I on again?
Public comment.
We just did this, so now we're here. All right. Is it okay if I finish the resolution and then go back to public comment? Okay. Sorry about that. All right, we're going to finish our resolution on minutes, and then we'll go back to public comment. All right. It's resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Mike? Second?
Second.
Mark? Any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. We'll be heading back to public comment. We've set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment to the board, we please ask you to come forward and state your name. But first, we're going to have Mr. Marin give you a brief description of how public comment works.
Fundamentally, what we do is encourage public comment. Anybody who wants to come up and speak. The policy just limits you from anyone from naming people, anything like that. That's standard. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gary Dona. I live right across from the track on Spelman Road. And I see the money that's being spent in the school on the track and athletic facilities. For the past 29 years, I've sit over there and I watch people come over there with dogs, animals, and just let them on leash, run loose. They do their business over there. Some people pick it up, some don't. And even the ones that do pick it up, you know they don't get it all. And then I sit there and I watch kindergartners, first graders run around, roll around in it. They're, having a good time. They're kids. And then it just infuriates me to see the people. And they're not supposed to be there. There's a sign about this big. I would like to ask the board, I don't know if I'm even in the right place, about some signage. It's a little bit bigger. It expressly states no dogs, and of course service animals are exempted, stuff like that. So that people don't let their animals run loose over there. They're not supposed to be there, and signage is not good. I've called the dog control officer. Sometimes he comes, and frankly, every night you could call him. So I don't know if the school board can have them come by on a regular basis, once or twice a week in the evening, especially during the summer. I mean, there's puppies. I've seen them run and jump on people, and it's just not right. I mean, this is not a place for a dog park. They can make a dog park someplace else, and I don't even have children to go to the school anymore. Not since Samantha was my granddaughter, went to school here. But I watch little kids playing, and I know they're getting in urine, they're getting in feces, and people just walk right by that sign. And it's, like I say, it's just a small sign. Maybe CV Tech, they have a department there that they could make some signs for you. That wouldn't cost no money. Maybe it could be a class project for the people there. Something to just increase the signage and see if the school board can have the dog control during the peak times, the summer months. Come over and just swing by and watch, and you can see it every night. And I appreciate your time. That's what I came to talk about.
Thanks very much for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to approach the board at this time? All right, seeing that public comment is concluded, next we will move on to reports. Our first report is Superintendent of Schools, Daniel Mannix.
So I'm going to ask Jen to just help me with the topics here we talk about frequently. The first topic is a pretty serious topic. Probably remember Dr. Davey coming here and speaking about the capital project. Maybe twice he's been here to speak about the capital project, and it was approved just under $30 million, but essentially a $30 million project. And our share of that project is $4.1 million. And so there's a lot of different ways to pay that $4.1 million. Some of those ways are very damaging to really essentially to the district, and then other ways are less damaging, or in some ways are kind of creative, I guess. Obviously, we have to pay our fair share of the $29.8 million project. So I'll give you an example. Some school districts do not have a fund balance, and they don't have any other way to pay for the project, so they would have to go out and bond the project, and that's a long-term borrowing proposal. And you could bond for 15, it's like a house mortgage. You can bond for 15 years or 30 years. But the problem with that is it sounds good, 15 years, 30 years, it might be a smaller expenditure. Ours, I think for 15 years was every year we would be paying without interest, which you'd have to factor in interest, of course, would be just about $250,000. But what that does to your tax cap is it really damages your tax cap calculation. It really impacts that quite negatively for an extended period of time. And then some districts might be in a favorable position where they may, with us and Peru are paying 14% of the project. Some other districts may be paying 6% of the project, and they may have that much money in their fund balance, so they might be able to put a lump sum down on their project, and it might not impact their fund balance because they might have a really hefty amount in there. The nice part of that approach is if you do that essentially within the calendar year, you're going to receive your BOCES aid ratio back on that amount, which again for some school districts is 30%, and other school districts like Peru is I think 70%, and for Beekmantown we're above 50%. So did I get the mechanics of the if you put down the fund balance, is that within
the only year that it will not work is this current year because SED has not approved BOCES project yet. So once New York State approves BOCES project, so it should be done by next year, sometime within that year, you will get aid back in that same fiscal year. You would get the 50%. For us, it would be 50% back in that same fiscal year.
Of whatever we could.
Of whatever we could put down.
So whatever we put down as a down payment, we get half back.
Right. So if we had fund balance to use, say we put down $2 million, in the same fiscal year, we'd get $1 million back.
Because of our aid ratio.
Because of our aid ratio.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just imagine it's 50%. It's easy math.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little bit over 50, but
right.
50% is easy to use. So that's.
Yeah. And then there's another. So you can bond the project, which is a long-term borrowing, or you can ban a project, which is an anticipatory note, and you can only ban a dollar amount for up to 5 years. And one way in which we're thinking about creating a way to pay for this project is if you take let's just use the number $2 million, whatever it is we put down, and we receive that money back, that we receive the 50% back, we do is just reinvest that money again into the project. So let's just say we put $2 million down, and we receive $1 million back. We can put that money back, and so now we're at a $4.1 million bill, and now we have like 1.1 left to pay on the project. And the question, if we ban it, does not negatively impact our tax cap calculation. So if we ban the project, which I haven't heard a lot of school districts talking about banning the project. Have you heard some?
No, I've heard a few people talk a little bit about it, but not
a lot.
No,
Okay.
most of them are thinking a little fund balance, and then they're going to do a bond.
Right. But if we ban it and we say, okay, let's reinvest the money, and then we only have essentially $1 million left over, again, we can ban it for 5 years. We feel, and at the end of the 5 years, if you haven't found a way to pay for it,
We could bond it at that point.
then you could bond it at that point. And I'm not sure my preliminary investigation, again, I'm not telling you this is fact, but if we receive the money and reinvest the $1 million, so let's go to that $2 million, receive the $1 million back, if we do that at the appropriate time, we might receive 50% of that back. We do 500,000 that we could reinvest. So you get how it just kind of rolls. So over 5 years, that $2 million could hypothetically, we haven't done a lot of work on this. Well, we have done a lot of work on this, but we don't have a final answer for you right now. That could essentially just pay for the whole project when you reinvest what you're getting back. So either way, I think that's a pretty creative way to pay our bill quickly, pay our debt quickly and efficiently, and have limited to no impact on our tax cap calculation. Therefore, maybe impacting our taxpayers if we ever got a situation where that amount that we were paying would for the BOCES project would make us have to go over the cap, which nobody wants to go over the cap because it never gets voted. It's very, very hard, as you know from Shazy, right? Very, very hard to have the voters approve something over the cap. So that's a big component here. You're going to be looking at a pretty sizable amount in the coming months that we're going to want to allocate to pay for this project. And one of the other things we're thinking about is we want to talk to our auditor and ask our auditor, correct me if you think I'm mistaken on this, jump in. We want to talk to our auditor and see if it's all right to take this year's fund balance amount. And so we'd have two things. We take this year's fund balance amount and essentially write a
Purchase order.
A purchase order.
So we encumber funds.
Yeah, so you're encumbered X amount. It's kind of off your books. Or the board could just be like, okay, we know we're at this amount over fund balance, and we have a policy on our reserves. The board adopted a policy a couple of years ago, which is very smart of the board. And we would be going over an amount, but we would know, and we have a board resolution knowing that we're over that amount for a month or two, really. And then you'd be allocating and going, lower than the amount that you currently have. So those are some of the creative ways. Is there anything that we've talked about, Jen, on paying that we haven't brought up today?
No. I mean, we've kind of done some legwork on this. The one thing we would have to do if we decide that this is going to work out is there would have to be a board resolution for the excess fund balance to encumber the funds this year, if that's where we land. It's a creative way to pay this debt with no effect on our tax cap and virtually, therefore, no effect to the taxpayer.
It's really, you're just using, you're using taxpayer money
Right.
to pay this debt that goes to BOCES.
Yeah.
So, what is our fund balance right now? I mean, the numbers you're giving us are close to what you're looking at, I guess. $2 million from fund balance.
Yes, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
So our fund balance right now is, I think, over 11%, which some people will say, wow, that's really high. But when you look at all the other school districts around here, it's not really that high.
It should be 4.
Right? The old law says, very,
No one
very,
could
very
ever
old,
operate on
antiquated
4%.
law says for school districts it's 4%, but for towns and municipalities it can be 2 months worth of operating. So 4% of ours, we could operate for 5 days, 4% of our fund balance. So unfortunately, the districts that hold true to that 4% number, whenever there's a blip like health insurance or something like we've been experiencing, they can't get themselves out of that. They find themselves in dire need. So we've talked about that here a lot. We haven't really, I was using $2 million just because it's an easy number to work with, right?
Yeah, but it sounds good.
It is.
Easy math sounds great.
Right. So one of the things we're thinking about is at the end of the year, like if we at the end of the year we're going to have some budget lines that we have not spent, and we've done special projects with those in before, or increase our reserves, like our EBLAR reserves or our what's the construction reserve? Capital reserve. This year we wouldn't be increasing, or we've increased our fund balance a little bit. This year we would actually be taking that, putting that, everything that's left out of all of our lines into an amount that we would essentially be saying, let's put that into that BOCES capital project, and let's take our current fund balance and take a little bit of that and spend that down and put that in as well. So what will that be? We won't really know until we start closing down the books.
Right.
We play that game, we estimate.
Yeah. But and for another, I would say not until May do you really start to see a clearer picture of what you're really going to have left.
Right. We'll fill up our gas tanks, we'll do all these
Yep,
things we
yeah.
need to do.
Yeah.
Right, but so that's an expenditure that's coming that's going to be large and significant, and we're going to give you a pretty creative process so that we feel like it really kind of protects. I think it really is the best way to protect. We believe for us in our situation, and every school is different, it protects us to the best of our ability. Yeah, and we'll keep working on it. Talking to Eric Bell's been helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Tax cap, you want to just reiterate that one more
Yeah,
time?
no changes to the tax cap. We're at 2.56. There's been no changes, so I
Okay.
don't expect there to be.
So we've talked before here about the governor's proposal, and that's the number we're using right now in our multi-year budget and in our current budget. And then we've also talked about the Assembly and the Senate coming in wanting significantly more money allocated to education and in other areas as well. They have not come to a meeting of the minds yet. We normally, for whatever reason, it always seems to happen over April break. I'm sitting somewhere on vacation, and the aid rates start coming in, and we start really knowing exactly what we have. But it is encouraging to know that in a non-election year, both the Senate and the House are seeking significantly more financial aid for school districts. So, I don't want to play a guessing game, but if we were to receive anything from $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 more, that could significantly help us next year. And if you do remember the multi-year budget that we put up on the screen last time we were here, we were in the red this year, knowing that we were anticipating something more coming in. But we're still confident that if nothing more comes in, we'll be able to find a way. Obviously, we're going to have a balanced budget. So right now, there has been no new news there, except for the fact that the House and Assembly have said we're combining our forces to pressure the governor to move in this direction. Now let's see what happens in negotiations with the governor. And then the capital outlay project. So this year, not in this budget, in last year's budget, we had a capital outlay project where we were giving the new doors, providing new doors at Cumberland Head Elementary School for a number of reasons. We said last year that this year in this year's cap outlay, this budget, we need to talk about this in public, is going to be doors for Beekmantown Elementary. Same doors, they're safe doors. They automatically, the principal have a button that can automatically lock all the doors if there's ever some intruder. But they're new doors too, and we do have some code issues with those particular doors. And then I want to start talking about it now because last year we started talking about BES would be on the table. So next year, this isn't in this budget at all, but the following year, our capital outlay and our long-term planning will be actually the bleachers. You have to find a project that's about $100,000, so that's kind of tricky. But the bleachers in the middle school are original bleachers, and we would like to, they're not the safest bleachers in the world, and they're certainly a little bit older. We would like to replace those bleachers with bleachers that are, again, they open and shut easily. They don't kind of fold up. If a kid pushes them in, they kind of be locked into place, and they would have an electronic opening and closing mechanism. And we price those out generally about $65,000.
Yeah.
So if we were to purchase them through a capital outlay, that $65,000 would be a little bit of engineering fees into there, and we would receive 80% of that money back in the subsequent year. So we'd have new bleachers in there for roughly $17,000, whatever that number is.
So 2019 is Cumberland Head doors, 2020 would be Beekmantown doors, and you're talking about 2021.
Yeah, I guess that's one. Yeah, the 18, 19 is Cumberland Head, 19, 20 is Beekmantown Elementary, and 2021
would be the bleachers.
would be the bleachers. Right. And that's really what that's where we are currently with the budget. No changes to health insurance. We don't anticipate any changes. No changes to any of the BOCES numbers. Does anybody have any questions on the budget issues that we brought forward at the last meeting? We're good. Again, there's not a lot of changes until we see the new funds from Governor Cuomo. Okay? All right. That's all I have.
Great. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
We covered it all. We're good.
Okay, good. I did not see this time. I'm very proud of myself. All right. We have already done number 6. Moving to number 7. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following personnel resolutions on this consent agenda appointments be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Mike? Second?
I'll second.
Holden? Any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to adopt the 2019-2020 school calendar. May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
So we have Mike. Mark is the second. Any question or discussion?
Can I add this discussion in? When I first arrived, I think we had maybe 3 snow days. I'm pretty sure it was 3 snow days on the calendar, so that was difficult to work with. We've moved to 4. This year we had 5 snow days, and still was a little worrisome with 5 snow days. In this particular calendar, because of the way the year falls, we're going to have booked 6 snow days. So if anybody asks, that's the reason why. Is the weather patterns just seems to be a little bit more dramatic. We seem to be having more weather issues before Thanksgiving. We start burning a day or 2 before Thanksgiving. For instance, Saranac Central School District has used 2 days above they had predicted that they would use. So then it really impacts vacations, because the law says that you have to take those days off from a vacation before you can ask for any help. So they are taking days off their, and you can't take legally mandated holidays. So like you can't take Memorial Day off. So there's 6 snow days booked on that calendar for the first time. So it's kind of an anomaly.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
related to that calendar? Where are we now? Because we were talking about taking a day away from the end of spring break, Monday. That I was just looking at the 22nd.
Yeah.
Are we in session?
Are you trying to jinx us, Mike?
No, I'm not. Right, as it stands now, that's
As it stands right now, the elementary school still has 1 snow day to use, and the high school has 2 snow days to use, so we won't take anything off. And it looks like the high school will have the Friday off. You go to the calendar, on the calendar it says if you have 1 day left, you have this day off, 2 days left, you have this day off, because we can only have the teachers in for 181 days by contract. So if you book 6 days for snow days and you've used 5, they're going to have a day off later on. So we had an interesting day this year, you might recall, where the buses were rolling. There was no snow flying. At 6 o'clock, the snow started to fly. At like 6:45, we had 1.5 inches. At 7:15, we had 2.5 inches. So we set a 2-hour delay for the elementary, and then it just kept going. Luckily, the snow stopped at 2, but we called a snow day for the elementary. But the high school was here, and we weren't going to let the high school's kids. We couldn't say we're not going to bus your kids to school because the roads are too dangerous, but we're going to put those high school kids on those dangerous roads. So we kept the high school kids here. Luckily, we saw in the weather forecast that it wasn't going to stop. It did stop, and then we bused them home. So the weird part about this year is the high school has 2 days left, and the elementary has 1 day left. So So that day is that Monday that you're talking about, everybody has off. The high school will have Friday off before that, and the elementary school will have the day, I think it's the Friday before Memorial Day off, if we're fortunate not to have another snow day. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So the middle school, high school is having an additional day off the 12th?
They have 2 days. They have 2 days that they've been in session. If we didn't give them those 2 days back, they would be in session for 183 days. So they have 2 days, the 2 Sundays banked.
Yeah, Friday and Monday before break.
Yeah.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda: financial reports, contract for health and welfare services, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have Mike and Mark. Any questions or discussion? Okay. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Douglas Beebe, Kathy Buckley,
Yes.
Jeremy Connors, Michael Hagedorn,
Yes.
Holden Lehman,
Yes.
Ed Marin,
Yes.
Crystal Palmer,
Yes.
Mark Sand,
Yes.
Pauline Stone.
All right, additional items to discuss. We have our 20th annual Clinton County School Board recognition dinner. It's also known as the Top 10% dinner. I cannot attend this year. We're looking for people to go in my place.
I will be there.
Okay, so we have Mark Sand, Ed Marin. What's the cutoff, Joanne, for people to notify you?
April 1st.
April 1st. Okay.
It's in Altona, right?
Yep, it's,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, it's usually the old one. We did have a fire, but I assume that they've recovered. Okay. Is there any other additional items that we need to add?
I thought I would mention it now. Later on, when we start presenting the numbers to the public on our budget, you're not going to see significant increases really anywhere because it's a rollover budget. You're going to see 2 significant increases. They're going to be health insurance, it's going to be a big number, roughly about 14%. And then our legal fees are going to be a significant number. People are going to ask some questions about that if they're here. Obviously, I don't think we need. We actually had a presentation recently about the legal fees. However, the need to utilize attorneys is less, but it's still happening on a very, very regular basis. So it's not here, you're not seeing it here, which is good, but we will need to increase that line significantly.
Any other questions or concerns at this time? Okay. All right, next we have public comment. We've set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If someone would like to approach the board at this time, seeing that we have no one, we will move on. We will have a second executive session this evening. So, it's resolved that the Board of Education appoint a clerk pro tem. Any volunteers at this time? All right, thank you. Ed Marin? May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Who's first?
White.
Mike. Second, Mark Sand. Any questions or discussion?
There's no anticipated action after this, so.
Just so you know, if you're doing clerk pro tem, you only need to do in and out of the meeting. It doesn't have to be our entire meeting, it's just in and out of executive session and adjournment. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes.
For the record, we should note that we're fighting Jackie Kelleher into that.
Okay. All right, so wouldn't I do that during the meeting of executives?
Did I jump? Sorry.
We're both jumping ahead.
Sorry.
It's resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to receive advice of counsel regarding board communications, which is confidential advice as a matter of New York civil practice law, and therefore exempt from the open meetings law. It should be noted that Jackie Kelleher will be entering into our executive session. May I have a motion, please?
Motion. Second.
Did we already?
We just-
No, that was clerk pro tem.
Oh, that was-
I'm on it.
You were on it.
It's about time. All right, so motion by Mike, second by,
Yeah.
was that Mark Sand? Okay. Do we have any questions or discussion regarding this? All right. Seeing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes.